Hi, welcome to Another Angle UK. Now in this video I'm going to answer a question, and that question was, what video equipment do you use to film your fishing trips? So that's going to be the subject of today's video. I've got most of my kit in this one small hold-all. All of the main essential camera gear is in here. I also bring along a few things like a tripod and various mounts, like a chest mount and a head mount. What cameras do I use then? Well, when I first started making short videos for friends and family, I had one of these GoPro Hero 7 Blacks. This must be about 4 years old now. Really like this little camera, it's been really reliable. So I've kept that format. All of my accessories fit the Hero 7. So when it came to buying a second camera, I went for the GoPro Hero 5 Black. Yeah, it's an older model than the one I've got, but it uses all the same accessories and it's just as reliable. It still films in 1080p, which is what I want. So those are my two main cameras that I use. Occasionally I have an extra bit of footage that I use from my iPhone, but these are the ones that I use all the time. I like to use this underwater housing. The reason for that is that it just gives me a bit more security when I'm filming returning a fish underwater. Although both of the cameras are waterproof, it just feels nice to have this extra security of the underwater housing. I also have what's called a wind slayer. Basically, these are just bits of foam that go around the outside of the camera and muffle the microphone ports so you don't get the wind noise going across the microphones. They work quite well. I invested, he says invested, is about 30 quid on one of these wireless microphones. This particular one's called a K35. It suits my purposes because it's nice and compact. As you'll see from inside, just the little lapel microphone, again with a windshield on here, really quite nice and small. But in order to get the microphone system to talk to the camera, you just plug in one of these. This is the wireless element with this, I think they call it a 3.5-inch jack. Now GoPros don't have one of those, so that's where we had to buy this additional adapter. The adapter goes into the USB-C port on the side of the camera, and out of the other end comes the small 3.5-inch port where you can connect these things. It's a bit of a faff, to be honest, and workaround. In addition, I've had to buy an extra mount for it as well, because I didn't like the idea of just this dangling off the side of my camera. I rather like the idea of it being tucked away, and that's what this mount actually does. So just removing the GoPro Hero Black from its own housing. In order to get this working, we need to take off the side door. These just clip on and off, and that exposes the sockets here. The camera now is not waterproof, so that's well worth bearing in mind if it starts getting rainy. The camera pops into the housing. We slide the housing piece back on. The GoPro adapter fits into the bottom of the housing there. We can plug that in. Then that gives us our socket at the other end. And even now with GoPro, with this one, there's some differences between these 3.5 adapters. So it has to have yet another adapter going in there before this fits in the side. Now, that works just fine on a tripod, but it feels really as if it's delicate. I wouldn't want this to fall off the tripod or drop anywhere. But that just gives us then the ability to use the wireless mic. Probably out in the middle of the river, I'd have the camera on the bank and I'd be wearing this, casting and talking about what I'm doing with the wireless mic on. It's quite good at muffling the wind as well, but it makes it into quite a bulky little system. In addition, I've got what's called a floaty, and that's a nice grip, that's a nice mount, so you can put your camera on here and you can hold this quite securely. Next in the box is a light. I thought that there may be occasions when I would be using a light, perhaps when I'm catching a fish in the dusk and I want to get some extra light on the fish. I won't shine that direct at the camera, but we've got 4 different light settings here and a little diffuser on the front to make the light a little bit softer. It's rather a harsh light without the adapter on. Now, filters. When I'm next to the water, I find it's quite useful to have a polarizing filter. This is a standard 52mm polarizing filter, but it's got a little adapter on the back there that enables you to hook this straight onto your GoPros. And that just takes off a little bit of that brightness, particularly when you're filming into the water, which is what we do when we're doing the fishing. With it being a standard 52mm filter, you can put different types of filter on here. So if you want something for other occasions, called ND filters, neutral density filters, etc., you can play about a little bit with those. It's getting a bit beyond my videoing skills. That's something that's going to come on in the future. The next item you see in the box here is a Duracell power bank. And what I do with this is plug this in, and I'm able to fit this into the bottom of the charger, and so I can charge things on the go. So I've got 2 batteries in here already, but as soon as one's exhausted or 2 are exhausted, we can start to recharge those and do the charging whilst it's actually in the case here. I've got GoPro batteries, but I've also got some of these Duracell batteries. They fit perfectly. They're designed to fit these GoPros. I wanted some alternative batteries that were just a little bit cheaper than the standard GoPro batteries, but I didn't want to go as cheap as really cheap ones because I believe they can swell up a bit when they're hot, when they're being used. So I went for the Duracell ones, and I've been quite happy with those. Also in the box here, I've got additional SD cards in case I fill up an SD card. I've not done that yet. There's a 128GB cards, and they seem to take an awful lot of film footage. I've never filled one up, to be honest with you, and spread across the 2 cameras. It's unlikely I'm going to need that, but if we had a card error or something like that, it's always nice to know that you've got another card in here. So that's just a really quick rundown on the cameras that I have. They're not mega expensive. I bought the second-hand one from a company called MPB Photography, and they're an online company specializing in second-hand camera equipment. This camera cost about the same as you would find for a second-hand camera on social media, but it came with a 3-month warranty, and it had been tested and verified that it was actually working. So I thought that was a much better deal than going in blind and buying something straight off a social media. The additional items that I have are along the lines of various mounts. This one here has got the big clamp on it, and I clamp this onto the leg of a seat box or onto the side of the boat. Talking of boats and kayaks, I also have a mount that fits rod holder mounts on the boat and the kayak. So this can be a good mount for the GoPro that's nice and secure. You've probably seen a glimpse of that in 1 or 2 of my videos. I think that's covered everything that I've got and wanted to share with you today. If you've got questions and want to know a little bit more about how I've come by these cameras, how I use them, what settings I've got on them, just ask a question in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer. I hope you found that useful. Hope to be out seeing you on the bank soon. Bye for now.